All right, so over the course of the last 48 hours, there's been a couple of changes to specifically 4 of the rods that were introduced for the Fisch Fright event. For the most part, a lot of these were sort of done in secret, and the reason why I say that is because unless you were really online when they were sort of implementing all of these changes, and you don't really know about it because they sort of sent it out as an announcement in-game, and realistically, they only sent an announcement out for the ones that they made last night, because the first set of changes, to my knowledge, were not really shared. They were just sort of like specifically said that they were going to be making changes to a handful of rods. But anyways, you guys get the idea. We're going to go over every single one of them. I figure I'd give you guys a full detail. I have gone ahead and reached out to Nick so that way I can give you guys as much of an accurate information as possible. So the way we're going to go over these is pretty much in order, starting with the buffs that were done specifically like 2 days ago, starting with the spooky rod over here. There was sort of like a new passive added to this, which is 5% progress speed added to it. I mentioned this in my previous video. Spooky rod is a great rod. Obviously, it's very easy to get your hands on this, and really the selling point is just how frequently it does go ahead and freeze the actual resilience bar, if you want to call it that, right? It's super good. Still is very good. You sort of get like that opportunity to be able to get pretty much all of the Fisch Fright mutations, spooky, frightful, and all of that good stuff. It's basically like this year's haunted rod. But either way, the point is that the secret sort of little buff that this got was the additional 5% progress speed that was sort of added secretly in the background. Next up, we have everyone's favorite, which is the Jacko Blaze, you know, the super easy rod to get. This one already had that additional 5% progress speed in the background, but that was actually buffed from 5% to 8%. So yes, it did end up getting a nice little buff in the background that could have easily been overlooked, and realistically, if I would have not mentioned it, you probably wouldn't have even noticed that the buff happened. But yeah, as I mentioned before, this is everyone's favorite rod right now, so take that as you will, whether I'm being serious or I'm joking around. I guess you'll never know. And then for the final little quick buff here, as far as the ones that happened 2 days ago, is the Necrotic rod. If you remember when I previously showed this in my first video where I showed you guys every single one of the brand new rods and, you know, what their passives did and stuff like that, I very briefly showed the Necrotic rod, which at the time was extremely rare. No one had gotten their hands on this, which as a matter of fact, here is the footage literally directly from my video. If you notice in the luck, it says 86% luck. That is originally what this rod had when it was released. If we take a look at it now in game, it is a 143% luck. Every single one of the other stats are still the exact same, but there's actually another buff that this got as of last night, which we're going to go over every single one of those now in just a second. As I was saying before, these were pretty much all of the buffs that were done at least like the day before yesterday. To my knowledge, there was nowhere mentioned anything about this, except for obviously the #1 source to be able to get a lot of this stuff, even though it usually does take them a little bit of time, usually a couple of hours after it bumps out. But yes, over here in the Fishipedia, if you notice right under change logs for 1.54.1, it does mention all of these changes that we just went over right now. But as you can see, it's probably been, I don't know, maybe like 8-9 hours since the second set of changes came out, and they're sort of still not here. So that is primarily the reason why I'm making this video, because a good amount of you are asking me what exactly are the changes that were done last night. So let's go over those starting right now. Over here we have the incredibly expensive Ducar's rod. I don't know how to say it, dude. I'm not even gonna bother. This one actually got some pretty decent stuff going on. For example, they did go ahead and add some sort of infrequent slashes, if you want to call it, which is basically when you're using the rod, it occasionally will go ahead and give you some slashes. Like if you notice right there, it did it. It isn't a very common thing that happens, but it does. More often than not, you'll probably not see it happen. But yeah, look, if you notice right there, it just went ahead and did the slash for me. It's a nice little buff. On top of that, they also did add like a sort of sound effect to this, so that's pretty cool as well. Overall, a nice little buff to this, which I know that the screenshot is probably very small. I just don't really want to leak out our entire DMs here. But if you notice at 6:32 a.m., I did ask Nick. He said, yeah, strong but infrequent slashes to the Ducar rod. Dude, I'm really messing that up. I'm so sorry. And on top of that, he said that he gave it custom sound effects too. For the most part, I haven't really heard too many complaints about this rod, even with the changes that were just done. I'm curious to hear in the comment section what you guys think now. Is it worth the 25,000 candy and obviously the extensive grind that you have to do for this? Or do you feel like it's still not in that sweet spot where it kind of needs to be? I know that you guys come up with some pretty good balancing changes. At least, you know, some of you come up with some pretty like outlandish stuff. So I'm curious to read the comment section and see what you guys think about this. Now, for the next one, we are coming to the Necrotic rod. This one is kind of interesting because although it was buffed as of last night once again, even though they did buff it with the luck, the buff that was done last night was actually something that was supposed to be in place since the moment that the rod actually released. I guess there was just some sort of miscommunication between the developers, and it was never included for the update, which is a bit of a problem, but I'm glad that they got it fixed rather quickly. So again, as I mentioned before, this did go ahead and get a luck buff the day before yesterday, and then last night, they finally went ahead and included a custom mutation for this. So yes, if we take a look over here, it is called the Necrotic mutation. I have it on 3 fishes right now, but for some reason, these are quite literally microscopic, so I can't show you them. But this one will show you exactly what that looks like. I'm going to be honest, I've tried figuring out what the cell multi is on this. I'm stuck anywhere between 14x and 16x. Like we did before, I'm sure that someone will go ahead and post it in the comment section. I'll pin their comment, or I'll go ahead and pin it myself once we have the official numbers from someone doing, you know, more extensive testing. But overall, it's an actual good addition to this rod. It is a really difficult rod to get your hands on, but because of that passive ability that it does have on it, it's a really good contender where you're out there catching things, you know, like the Scylla and the Moss Lurker and all that good stuff. Again, I know that the screenshot is really, really small, but there is the full text now. If you notice at the bottom, he mentions also Necrotic mutation for the Necrotic rod. It was supposed to have it ages ago. So that is pretty much every single one of the additions that were added last night. In case you guys weren't around, there was a couple of other things that were mentioned that they were going to be doing changes to, but I don't believe that any of those changes were added in last night, except for the ones that I just mentioned. If I'm not mistaken, I think somebody sent me a screenshot and it shows that, you know, goblins were brought up and stuff like that. None of that stuff was implemented to my knowledge. But now there's another thing that I want to sort of include into here. It has nothing to do with the rods or the buffs or anything like that, but it is a question that I am quite literally getting spammed with, and I'm sure that you guys are understanding the question right now based off of where I'm standing. That of course has to do with the Pumpkin King over here, which, as you guys know, he has pretty much been saying that he is busy right now for literally the entire time that he's been available. Now, a couple of you did reach out to me and told me, well, Carbon, there is a timer inside of the FISCHFRIGHT 2 bestiary that could potentially give us a clue on what exactly is going to be coming with the Pumpkin King. Maybe there's going to be a part 2 in 10 days. I want to go ahead and make it very clear that they do weekly updates for this game, whether it be quality of life or some type of, you know, little new content. So just sort of clear up the air. 10 days, it quite literally says it right there, leaving in 10 days, not, you know, part 2 in 10 days. So I'm not sure why people are coming to that conclusion. But I also mentioned this multiple times before the actual event was even announced. Where here in the front page for the event page, it says that the event will last until November 1st. So again, not sure why people are coming to that conclusion. What I will say is this much, and it's basically the information that was shared to me by Nick. The likelihood of there being a part 2 is very, very high. When I reached out to Nick and asked him in regards to the Pumpkin King, what was going on, this is the exact answer that I got. If you guys notice, I asked this on the 20th. I was going to tell you guys about it in a video, but I've been pretty busy. But yeah, when I asked him about the Pumpkin King, his response was, everyone will know at the same time soon. Where I went ahead and replied with bet and a couple of eye emojis. So I think it's pretty safe to say that there is going to be a part 2. There's no official word as of right now. And who knows, it might not even be a part 2. It might just be the Pumpkin King section being unlocked or whatever it is that we have to do for him. I'm definitely curious to see what it is that ends up being out of all of this. I honestly can't even begin to make the first prediction because we quite literally have no information besides the fact that the guy says that he's busy all the time. Either way, man, I'm curious to read the comment section on this. I can't wait to see what you guys think about the buffs, whether it be positive or negative. It's always really entertaining to read your comments. And of course, for any of you that maybe know a little bit more based off of like lore or something that's going on inside of here, if you know anything about the Pumpkin King, let us know in the comment section as well. That's pretty much going to do it for this video. I'm going to go to a haircut appointment right now, so I'll see you guys in the next one, and I will update you if I hear any more information regarding this weekend's update. Take care.